Hi Edgar, how are you? Welcome to Pentimenti Aperçu. How is your day going? Do you create work that is in conversation between sculpture and painting?
Thank you, Christine, for this question, because it leads to the center of my current artistic work. In the mind of art lovers, there are two sorts of art: the panel painting and the sculpture. Works of the third sort of art, the relief, are not in common. You seldom find them in exhibitions, and people call them rather objects. A relief is a sort that stands between the both. On the one hand, it hangs on a wall and shows its front side. On the other hand, a relief has three different views: from the left, from the right, and frontally. Therefore, it should be viewed from these three sides, which then offer three different views or pictures. In some of my works, which require you to walk past them, the three views merge into one another and produce a reverse perspective. This creates a counter movement that some call them moonwalk reliefs.
Do you think that your work is responding to architectural space?
I started my studies in architecture and later I shifted to the fine arts. Whenever a strong painting is brought into a room where it has not been before, we normally find the perception of the space has changed by its impact. We have a different feeling in that room. I think it's an interesting matter. The more this effect is with reliefs. An unframed open form needs a space left and right to be hanged well. Art historians say reliefs and objects convert their center to the outside. In the course of my life, I have been busy with artistic work on architecture. That had influence on my free work too. One expression of art in response to architecture is the so-called trompe-l'œil. Trompe-l'œil means outwitting the eyes. Some years ago, I got the order by the town Bad Schwalbach to have them turning an old school building into a museum which would host the historic treasures of the cure business in the 19th century of the town. The challenge was one should see from the outside what would be seen inside. The solution I proposed was to paint windowsills, parapets, window cases, etc., the whole facade, which would have been made from stone in the 19th century as a trompe-l'œil. The mayor was so pleased that he ordered me also to reconstruct the front gate, the main door, and the complete outside, including the pavement. Such a job is a rarity for an artist, but I think it shouldn't.
How do you engage with the blurb of movement in your work?
I think I have driven the blur of movement in my work to some point. Viewers have rare experiences with my works. The reliefs seem to move in the opposite direction while passing by. Many are fascinating by it, others get dizzy. I think it has a special effect on the mind. Someone asked me once if there was an idea behind my artwork. I said, even in non-objective art, there is a close connection to human life. The work I have developed questions common ways of thinking. Every matter we look at has different layers and contradictory characters. The rush, the habit of dealing things superficially, leads us grasping only one aspect of a matter. If this is consistent with the belief of our peer group, we think that is reality. It is always work to get closer to the truth. The closer we get, the more difficult it is to form an opinion. I hope my reliefs will cause a spiritual expansion in the minds of my viewers.
Is there a relationship between your meditation exercises and your work?
Recently, Dalai Lama's 85th birthday was celebrated. He asked his followers for a special birthday present. He suggested to recite a mantra 1000 times. He said, in this way, the roots of the virtues would be created, and that would inspire him. Talking about virtues seems old-fashioned today. In the past, this term was mixed with ideologies that kept people within old boundaries. The virtues the spiritual persons like the Dalai Lama advocate bring us into a state of independence, fearlessness, benevolence, courage, diligence, patience, and creativity. Everything that is crucial to the work and the success of an artist. As a young man, I was attracted to yoga and began to practice it. I only guessed what effect it would have on me. Meditation, for example, is not a dream journey, but a training. We train our body by using our muscles more intensively than in our daily life. In meditation, the opposite happens. The permanent inner dialogue is stopped by concentration. We give a halt to thinking, and the background and the meaning of things become more perceptible. As an artist, we work on our ideas, on our expressions, and on our technique. In the same way, we can work on ourselves. I find it interesting and useful. The Greeks called it autopoiesis, forming yourself.
Has the current world impact has affected you?
Christine, you know, we artists, we live in a permanent crisis. We work in isolation. Sometimes we don't see anyone for days. Our work is mostly on low demands. Our economic basis is very unsure, but we have the advantage we can regulate our daily routine completely to our demands. This kind of life and work creates a special mentality. Most of my colleagues were not very scared or very bothered by the crisis. They liked the calmness, the distractions from work were very low. And because I am interested in the development of the world for a better, I see the positive side of this situation. Things which were unacceptable for a long time came up and a discussion begins. In the end, we will maybe see that we have come a big jump forward, because mostly crisis leads to good developments.
How do you know? How do you do your best work?
That is a good question. I often ask myself this question too. If there was a recipe, I think only best works would come out of the studios of the artists in this world. At first, if you want to say what is good work, you should have criteria to distinguish between a good work and a work which is not that good. I'm not a friend of the idea that it is only a matter of taste. My experience is that if I stroll over an art fair together with an artist female or male, maybe from another country, if there's an education behind, if the artist is experienced, we mostly share our judgment about the many works we meet in that fair. That means among the professionals, the criteria for good and not so good are quite clear or quite common. The best work I can do is when I'm in a process, when I'm very deep in a series of work which is already acquainted, which is already started, and when my concentration is very high. Sometimes then comes a point where there's a deviation from my planning. I get another idea, I have to change it in a way, and there's also the risk of failure. But mostly in these situations, something new, something really good comes up. In this case, I have the feeling something from outside is guiding me. We do not know which forces, part of those we are aware of, are involved.
What did you do this morning? What is your typical studio day?
I wake up in the morning between 6 and 7, no matter what time I had gone to bed the day before. I take a shower and I do my morning exercises, meditation and yoga postures after I have breakfast with my wife Angelica. My best day is when I have no desk work, no correspondence and other errands, and I can go to the studio immediately. I ride my bike and stay in the studio until the evening. After the midday snack, I do a power snap for 20 minutes. And in the evening, when I have come back, I meet my wife. Angelica comes from her dance studio and we have dinner together.
So what is your favorite things beside art?
Oh, I like to be out in the nature. I use my mountain bike to have a bigger range and to get some of training. I like the company of interesting people. I love good exhibitions and concerts. I like to write down my thoughts and I love everything that has visual appeal. A beautiful landscape, good art, successful architecture are like an important food for me. I have humor and I like people who have humor.